Good afternoon. I'm MJ from Linus Publications, and we're here to do Trump's Daily. And this is for October 12th, 2025, which is going to be Sunday. Now, we won't have too many angles to do, and I do want to, at the end, sum up what I think some of the things are for the shutdown going forward. So it's not we're not finishing it up on Sunday, but there might be some progress made. So let's take a look at the angles that he has. And we're going to start off with Moon moving into his 11th house. And this is going to be happening around 2 o'clock in the morning. And that will be 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday night into Sunday morning. And the best way for me to describe this is actually think about the last time he had this, and that was when he was at Charlie Kirk's memorial. So, in effect, when the moon is in your 11th house, you want to be with your community. You want to be doing things with your friends. You're looking at your hopes, your wishes. So, it's that type of environment you want to be in. With Trump, it also comes up that he wants peers that look up to him, that admire him, that think he is just wonderful. So this could also be his golf friends. It could also be MAGA. Now, we do have the little upset that's coming up that some people are now calling out Trump for his not looking at fixing the healthcare issue. Specifically, Marjorie Greene is doing this. There may be other ones that are doing it. Some of his GOP members are also calling out the people that are being deployed to the cities like Portland, Chicago, and Memphis. So this is starting to fray on the edges. And now when Moon finishes its ride through the 11th house, which is in about 2.5 days, it'll move into the 12th house. At that time, you tend to want to sort of not be out in the public as much. You want to do things, sort of things you enjoy and quiet. So that for him would probably be more like golf things. Sort of like he likes to spend time golfing with closer type friends. But sometimes, it's also not a time that you're going to go, you may think about things, but not really to fix things. So the longer this goes on with the shutdown, the harder it may be to pull back. But we'll talk about this at the end. Now, we also have Moon in conjunct the Black Moon Lilith. At some point, I'll give you the story of Lilith. But what's happening here is this in conjunct, you can't get there from here. And Lilith is actually, she's an evil person. I should say she does evil things. Maybe she's not an evil person, but her actions spark of evil. Trump has now done what? He is firing the federal employees. So is this an action that would be considered good? Is it evil? Up to you to decide. But in effect, when we have Moon in conjunct Black Moon Lilith, you end up reacting strongly. You tend to be set off by things. You have volatility in your emotions when you're confronted with something like rejection or something that's shameful. So if he's confronted, for example, by the Nobel Peace Prize thing, he might actually, resort to doing some action. Now, a good way to look at this is he's hunted by ghosts that are stored up by truths that he's not ready to acknowledge. So there are things that he takes to be truth when it isn't. And some of this is coming up from that. Now, in addition, and that's happening at around noon. So we had Moon conjuncting 11 at around 2 o'clock in the morning. And then at noon, we have Moon in conjunct Black Moon. And it's also squaring Neptune. Squaring Neptune, you're confused. Because of that, you're a little bit more vulnerable. You try and be idealistic, but that's hard. You're sharing private moments in public. And what might be happening is that if he is sort of, if he feels like he's rejected by something, he's going to lash out and he's going to do that in public. Now we have at around 6 o'clock, Moon conjuncting Mercury. This is pretty good. So here, he wants to talk. He wants to be social. He wants to plan things. He wants to maybe talk, give speeches. So it'll be a good time for him to be going over what he wants to say. For example, when he goes to Israel. But it's also a good time to reevaluate the shutdown. Next thing we have is Venus in conjunct Pada Fortune. Now, this is a light planet, so it's in effect for more than just the day. So it's going to be in effect for some part of Saturday into Monday. And pretty much what this means is that what he thinks he wants is not something that's going to give him fulfillment. And we all get to that point. Sometimes we want, let's say, that great looking chocolate cake on that, counter. But when we have it, it's not as good as it looked. Same thing here, but coming on a day when he has these other things going on, it feels like nothing's gonna sort of fill him up. Okay. Things that he think might help him or might make him feel good, they're gonna fall short of the mark. Now, the last angle to cover is Mercury trining Mercury. And this is a great angle. Communication with communication, it's harmonious. It just flows easy. So here we have ideas that are crystallizing. Conversations will flow and you feel confident. Here, you're clear-headed. You're likely to revisit old ideas with a new perspective. And this is really good. So he might come back to this whole deal with the shutdown and the healthcare plans and sort of reevaluate whether there's some of the solution that doesn't look like, he gave in or that, that sort of makes him look good. Now, communication can be a lot smoother. So in this case, if he's communicating with, the Democrats, he may not be as fighting with them. He may not be as aggressive. Now, this can spark you just to look at new perspectives. So maybe it's not just revisiting what you've talked about before. Maybe it's looking at completely different ways to approach this. And he may have a better understanding of the opposition, meaning that before maybe he wasn't clear on what they were looking for. And maybe if he can sort of reform it, it can actually make him look better. This can sometimes, depending, lead to a resolution of past discussions. Now, we know they would have had a discussion about these type of things way back around the spring or so. And it could be that if this follows in on that, it could be that there's going to be some resolution that can come out of this. And sometimes with this, the right words just happen. So Sunday will be actually a good time for Trump to sort of just sit back a little bit, maybe talk with his friends and look at some way to maybe handle this thing with the healthcare and put it in there without sort of putting it in there. Something that would, ease this tension point and then move it forward. He may realize that there's a bigger prize than the one he's currently looking at. So there's a lot of things today on Sunday for him that will sort of form and say, okay, what are we really looking for here? I don't expect that it's going to be settled Sunday, but it could actually come to a point that the sides are talking better and maybe he's leaning in a direction that at least has some other paths to go down. Hope you enjoyed this and have a good day. Bye now.